Well, I hope you're having a good morning so far today. The markets are smiling. It's always nice to have a good start to the week. All the equity indexes are up, all the Magnificent Seven, all the Cathie Woods, everything is up so far this morning. Tesla is also up. It's not at the 2 times beta that it normally likes to have, but it is doing well so far this morning, up about $2.50. About the same as its Mag 7 peers. Breaking news just coming out right now is that GM has finally reached a tentative agreement with the UAW. So all three of the legacy car companies have now got their deals with the UAW, and the UAW is talking big about how they're going to get Tesla and other United States manufacturers into the fold, meaning the mostly Korean and Japanese makers that make cars here in the United States. Anyway, gold and bond yields are also up with oil down. So it's a very, very good morning, except for those pesky bond yields. Wish we could get those to go down a bit more, but they're still in the right around the 4.9 range, so not really tickling up against that 5, and that's probably why the markets are doing well. Hey, this is Randy Kirk. Morning show after the bell. If you like it, hit like, or you can wait until later, but hit like sometime because it really helps the algorithm, helps to support the show, and then hit subscribe and notify. Of course, it is Monday, and we have Brian on every Monday now, probably Mondays and Tuesdays of each week. You're going to have Brian White on. And later in the week, it'll probably be some Brian Wong, as usual, if there's some good science stuff that Brian loves to be talking about. And today, we will begin formally to do our afternoon show. It'll be right around 5:10 every day, maybe even a little earlier, but right around 5:10. I will start producing that show and at exactly 4:30 when the bond futures market opens up, the pre-market. And so this will all be a pre-market show every day, Monday through Thursday. We'll talk about what's happened during the day, what's happening in the pre-market, and what our expectations are for the next day. So don't fail to miss that every night now, as that will be the standard for each day. And then, of course, do buy some Cybertruck bottle openers. You know you want one, and all of your friends do. And so you need to buy 3 for $65. All right, let's take a look. We have, of course, General Motors finally getting into the fold here with the United Auto Workers. I would expect there's not enough information out yet so far this morning. I'll provide that tonight. We would expect that their numbers are going to be very similar to what happened with Ford and with Chrysler or with Stellantis. All that information is not 100% clear yet so far, but last night I was reading where there's some signing bonuses, $5,000 a piece, I think, on the Ford deal, maybe. Anyway, these are a little bit of speculation right now, but $5,000 a piece. I wonder if that's going to be across the board. And then in other news, Reuters is saying that with BYD, their net profit for the third quarter reached $10.41 billion. That's $1.4 billion roughly. And that's an 82% increase from a year earlier, a 38% rise in revenue, but not quite as good as what BYD was saying that they were going to do in the third quarter, when they said they thought they'd get as much as double. Then at Alojo, I don't think that's what it is, but anyway, he's reporting on X this morning that BYD's third quarter financial report revealed a significant downturn in free cash flow, plummeting by $7.3 billion from a robust positive $4.8 billion. Plummeting a total of $7.3 billion. So in other words, they went from positive 4.8 to a negative 2.6. This drastic drop disclosed by the company today was primarily propelled by a staggering contraction in operating free cash flows, plummeting down. despite a relatively modest increase of $200 billion in capital expenditures. So what you're going to expect here, there wasn't enough information from them or from Reuters or from anybody else, but what you would expect is this is probably a significant increase in either inventories or potentially in accounts receivable if they're selling to dealers and the dealers aren't paying them on time. Hard to know at this point, but a big drop in their free cash flow. Gary Black is saying this morning that while much has, this is again on X, while much has been made about the 2023 EV adoption pause, we expect 2024 EV adoption to reaccelerate because of in the United States, at least he's talking about, with the $7,500 US EV IRA tax credit going to off invoice. In other words, up until now, you had to buy the car, and then later on, you're going to get this break in April of this year, I guess. When you do your taxes, you get this $7,500 deal. But that'll now come off invoice as soon as you buy the car starting in January. So, and that'll get reflected in the monthly payment. Number two reason he thinks that's going to happen is because of category news driven by the Cybertruck launch. Gary got a big investment in this Cybertruck launch, believing that it will be, as I do, the most photographed item in America going forward and maybe around the world. And then autonomous driving systems reaching level 3 or level 4, he believes, in 2024. That's interesting. Very positive, very positive news, very bullish from Gary Black this morning, believing that level 3 or level 4 will happen in 2024. From Umbaism, yes, I've used him a few times before. He is saying in Tesla news, Panasonic lowered its full-year operating profit forecast for the energy unit that makes batteries for Tesla and other automakers to $769 million from that's down. They had forecast of, well, they don't give it all in dollars. So from 115 billion down to 115 billion from 135 billion, so down about 15%. The company adjusted automotive battery production in Japan in the last 3 months to end September to meet an appropriate inventory level in response to rapidly reduced demand in Japan, not in the United States. The battery units production in Japan suffered from slowing uptake for high-end EVs in North America, Panasonic said in the presentation material. So that might be the Model S and X potentially. But in the United States, operations remained steady, saw firm sales of vehicles eligible for tax credits. So as we move out of October into November, we're coming closer to some significant market movers, catalysts, if you will, for Tesla. Sometime between now and November 30th at the latest, we will get the specs and the pricing for the Cybertruck. Now, that could happen between now and the 30th, but certainly on the 30th, if we don't have the pricing and all of the specs, we'll get those on that launch day. Of course, there could be some letdowns on that. Maybe the pricing is higher than expected. Maybe some of the specs are not as good as expected. But generally speaking, when companies are doing some kind of a big event like this, they're going to want to have really excellent news, like good specs and good pricing, something that's going to catapult the product. So I expect this to be positive, but you never know until it's all done. And then after the handover, we'll have lots and lots of press coverage and probably some reviews, some third-party reviews, in addition to some reviews by those individuals who got those first 100 or so cars on, maybe it'll only be 30. Some people are speculating 30. Some people are saying 100. It could be more than that. And maybe there'll be some production vehicles that will be sold after that. Nobody knows at this point. Now, also coming up is going to be, Elon said they're going to start production of Optimus in November. So we could be looking at some news on Optimus during the month of November, which would, again, be a potential catalyst, especially if there's something that's showing actual Optimus in use in factory. That would be great. Or actual production, and not just tooling up, but actually saying, okay, we're now making 10 a week or something of that nature. And then before the end of the year, I think you would, and Gary Black certainly is expecting next year, but maybe by the end of this year, some news on the full self-driving. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Before the end of the year, I would also expect some news on the Shanghai Megapack factory. I think it's probably timing on that one would be soon. Okay, there could also be, there's also appearing this new negative, this negative narrative that I mentioned above. And it's bad news. It's bad news narrative with regard to the adoption of BEVs. Now, Toyota and General Motors and Ford and Mercedes, BMW, they all have a reason to push this negative narrative. They're not doing well. They're not creating compelling products at compelling prices, quoting Elon. And so as a result, they're not doing that well. Even their software, they can't even get the over-the-air update thing right. So they're cutting back and reducing their spend on R&D and on tooling and on factories. And so that's creating a negative narrative, and not unsurprisingly. And then you have this news above about BYD and Panasonic that adds fuel to the fire. Elon, of course, with his dour mood the other day on the earnings call. So we have this idea beginning to form that maybe there's a pause in the BVD, the BEV. There's too many three-letter acronyms running around. Anyway, but disruptive technologies do have pauses. It's not a straight line up. Well, and not even straight in this case, an S curve. It doesn't go all the way up all the time. There's going to be reasons why it might have a pause. I don't think this pause is going to be long-lived. I don't think there's any reason to believe that. Right now, you've got BEV vehicles all over the world that are now selling at parity or better than parity on the sticker price. And then when you get below the sticker price and you start looking at things like these discounts, or you start looking at things like the the energy savings, in other words, the actual cost, the actual monthly out of pocket, they're much better deals than the ICE cars. However, General Motors and Ford and Stellantis and Mercedes and BMW and all these companies, Toyota, et cetera, they have no reason to push BEVs right now. They have every reason to try to get you to spend money on an ICE vehicle. And so they're not gonna let up on this narrative. They're gonna be happy to push that narrative. So the market might be a little bit negative on the BEV space until they get some positive news. I would say the last 30 days has been really negative about the BEV space. We need to see something. I would say the thing that might really pop BEV would be either FSD news, I mean, major, big time BEV news, like Tesla saying it's okay to drive it in the back seat, or some significant news on Gen 3. And I don't expect significant news on Gen 3 until the first quarter. So it's going to maybe all be up to the Cybertruck for now in terms of the good news in the Tesla space and in the BEV space, in terms of a significant catalyst before the end of the year. So let's take a look at how markets are doing right now. We have got actually, I was starting to see a little topping taking place, but no, it's mostly just Tesla topping. I don't know why Tesla should be down. It's only down 10 cents, but it is slightly down. And the Dow is up strongly and continuing up. So it's up $321. You've got the NASDAQ up $178. It is topping, however, and the S&P, all three of them, S&P slightly topping at this point. Let's look in terms of percentages. Percentages are up almost a full percent on the Dow, 1.5 on the NASDAQ, and just over a point on the S&P, with Tesla now back up again, 0.17%. And the Magnificent Seven are actually all doing better than Tesla right now. So I don't know I don't know if there was some news on Tesla, or whether there just might have been, maybe Kathy Woods had them again. Maybe she said, this looks like a good time to sell another bunch. I'm not sure, but so Tesla is up 0.32 right now. Now let's go in and look at whatever there is in terms of the rest of the indexes this morning. Okay, so we've got the Bitcoin, which is not up as much as it was either. It's come down from where it was. It's up, but it's sitting at 34,695. You've got the dollar holding just fine, good and strong. The gold is going, well, okay, so it was up, it was actually 2010 in the pre-market. Now it's, I'm sorry, 2010, and now it's 2007. So it's doing very, very well. And then oil down $1.50. That's about where it was in the pre-market. And then you've got bonds up 3 basis points on the 10-year. You've got bonds down a little bit on the 2-month and up 5 basis points on the 2-year. Interesting as heck that the bonds up that much on the 2-year, but the 10-year is up 3 basis points, still under 4.9 at 4.873. And again, Tesla bouncing around now a little bit down. So right around break even right now. It's been all over the place, bouncing up and down. No idea why. Nothing showing clearly to tell us why that is. All right, so let me say it again. Today, we've got Brian White coming. Brian White coming at about 11:30, and he just bought a new Model Y. So I think that's at least probably the conversation we're going to be having today is going to be about his Model Y. He's probably put 1,000 miles on it already. It'll be really interesting to have that conversation. And he might have something to say on some of the other progress that or lack of progress that we just talked about. So, and then really important, check me out tonight at around 5 o'clock, 5:10, something like that. Every night, Monday through Thursday from now on, I'm going to be doing this kind of a show, only we're going to be talking about the pre-market news that's out, as well as the important news of the day. Now, remember, I'm going to perfectly happy to have Rob Maurer and Dylan Loomis talking about some of the detail stuff. I'm not terribly interested in all the little micro details about the vehicles or about things that are happening out there. I want to bring you the stuff that I believe is actually going to move the Tesla stock in terms of Tesla news, but also all the economic aspects. Tesla's stock moves not just based on its fundamentals and not just based on its technicals, but it also moves based on the overall economic situation, as well as the market narrative and how the market is responding to things like the Fed this week. Okay, so that's what we try to do in every one of our shows, but in particular now the morning show and the afternoon show are going to be focused on the big narratives of the economy and the stock market, as well as the major news affecting Tesla. Always, of course, thinking about the narrative. So that's what's happening the rest of the day. Please hit like and subscribe and notify if you haven't already done that. And then no big deal, no news on the Tesla Cybertruck that I'm holding in my hand right now, except that it's time for you to buy it. If you haven't already bought your bottle opener, now would be the time. Help out the channel. Join Patreon and get those news broadcasts during the day. As I see the news, I post it up there. Only important news, 2 to 5 times a day, or 0 times a day. Like yesterday, there was nothing. There was no news. I'm not going to post something and fill up your inbox if there's nothing to report. But if there's something to report, I'm going to tell you about it. Let me know if you want your Cybertruck in stainless, or if you like the camo version better. And then buy the books, all that kind of stuff. That's, I think, all I've got this morning. Let's see what happens. Oh, one last look, as we always do, just one last look. And Tesla's now down 0.5%, and the market is continuing strong. So why is Tesla going counter market this morning? If I see anything, I'll post it. I'll pin it at the top of the comments if I see anything happening with Tesla that might be causing it to go counter market this morning. All right, I'm done. It has been great talking to you.